On a balmy summer's evening, Miss Arabella Wentworth, heiress to the vast Pemberton estate and possessed of a fortune that could make even the most stoic gentleman blush, resolved to take a walk along the seashore. The sun dipped low, painting the waves with hues of gold and rose, and the air carried that particular freshness which only the sea can bestow. She had no purpose beyond the indulgence of her own solitude. Her wealth afforded her such luxuries, and yet fate, that most capricious of matchmakers, had other designs. Meanwhile, Captain Nathaniel Nate Blackthorne, once a pirate of some repute, now a solitary figure scouring the sands, trudged along the same shore, his eyes fixed downward in search of a single gold coin. It had slipped from his grasp 3 nights prior during a skirmish with a rival crew, a trifling loss in monetary terms, but to Nate it was a matter of pride. He muttered to himself, as pirates are wont to do, cursing the shifting tides and his own carelessness. Their paths converged near a cluster of jagged rocks, where the sea whispered secrets to the shore. Arabella, in her muslin gown of impeccable cut, and Nate, in his weathered coat and salt-stained boots, ought to have startled one another senseless. A lady of her station meeting a man of his ilk was the stuff of Gothic novels, not genteel strolls. Yet when their eyes met, hers a bright hazel, his a stormy gray, there was no gasp, no recoil, only an inexplicable calm that settled over them like a shared secret. "Well," said Arabella, tilting her head with a smile that danced between amusement and curiosity, "a woman of my means ought not to consort with pirates, and yet you, sir, seem altogether different. I cannot account for it." Nate, who had faced cannon fire with less trepidation than this moment, straightened and grinned, a roguish, disarming grin that had once persuaded many a merchant to part with his cargo. "And I, madam, ought not to linger in the presence of such finery, yet I find myself uncommonly at ease. Perhaps the sea has bewitched us both." They laughed, though neither could say why, and in that laughter was born an instant liking, as though the universe had conspired to make them allies. Before parting, they agreed to meet again the following evening, under the pretense of searching for his lost coin. A flimsy excuse, but one they both embraced with conspiratorial delight. Their meetings grew frequent, each more charmingly absurd than the last. Arabella, with her wit as sharp as a rapier, teased Nate about his piratical past, while he regaled her with tales of the high seas, edited for propriety, but no less thrilling. Love, that inevitable guest, soon took up residence in their hearts, though it arrived with its share of complications. One moonlit night, as they sat upon a dune, Nate took her hand and said, with a fervor that startled even himself, "Miss Wentworth, Arabella, I am half mad with it, but I wish to marry you." "A pirate proposing matrimony! My old crew would keel-haul me for the very thought." Arabella's eyes sparkled with mirth, but her tone was firm. "And I, Nathaniel, would marry you tomorrow, but a husband of mine must have a respectable profession. Piracy will not do, not for the drawing rooms of Pemberton at least." Nate, ever resourceful, pondered this challenge. "A seaside merchant, then," he declared after a moment's thought. "I know the trade routes, the goods that fetch a pretty penny, and, better still, how to keep the pirates at bay. I'll be a man of the land, if that's what you require." She arched a brow, sensing the caveat in his words. "And will you swear off all piratical dealings entirely?" He chuckled, a sound as warm as the summer breeze. "I'll be mostly above reproach, my love. Mostly. There may be a gray area or two, dealings with old mates who've not yet turned honest. A man can't scrub the salt from his soul overnight." Arabella laughed outright, a sound so joyous it startled a nearby gull. "I suppose I must allow you your gray areas, for I'd not love you half so well if you were wholly tame." And so, Nathaniel Blackthorne became a merchant, his stall a fixture along the bustling coast. His knack for negotiation, honed by years of bartering with cutthroats, made him a success, and his intimate knowledge of pirate habits ensured his shipments arrived unscathed. True to his word, he kept his dealings largely lawful, though whispers of dubious trades with former comrades occasionally spiced the local gossip. They married in a ceremony that set tongues wagging. Half the county attended out of curiosity, the other half out of envy. Arabella, radiant in her bridal finery, cared not a whit for the pursed lips and raised brows of those who deemed her pirate-turned merchant beneath her. "Let them sneer," she'd say, laughing, "for they're only jealous that their husbands never scaled a mast or whispered sweet nothings stolen from a sonnet heard in a foreign port." Their wealth grew, as did their happiness, a union built on love, compromise, and the occasional wink at propriety. Nate remained a merchant on the land, but his heart retained a touch of the pirate's wildness, a trait Arabella cherished, for it made him the most romantic lover she could have dreamed of. And if, on quiet nights, he slipped out to retrieve a lost coin or two from the shore, she only smiled and turned the page of her novel, content in the knowledge that her pirate was hers alone.